Priti asked me 2 weeks before the UN assembly if I wanted to go to New York. And I said, no, I can't. I travel too much. I have a daughter. And she says, well, I think we're winning an award. I said, okay, I'll make it happen. It's not a problem. And I really didn't understand what I was getting into. She said something about the United Nations. And so I fly into New York City and all the roads are closed. And every day on the news, they're talking about this assembly. I'm like, this might be a big deal, Priti. And she sits down with me when I arrive in New York. She said, well, they told us to prepare a speech. I go, that's a good sign. She goes, yeah, I got this email that said we may have won, but I don't think it's right. I go, that's interesting. Let me read the email, Priti. And then I read it and I said, yeah, it says right here, we won the award. And she's like, I can't believe it. And it was this moment where I really saw Priti. She couldn't fully grasp and accept this incredible honor that she was the creator of. It was incredible to me. And so now we had to figure out a speech. It was crazy. We ended up going to this award ceremony and we're watching people being awarded after award, and it was Minister of Health and Secretary of Health and policy this and all these people from all over the world. And I kind of look over, I'm like, oh boy, I'm not sure my speech is up to snuff because everybody is so formal. And then they called Obesity Matters. It was such a great moment. And I talked about how we chose our name. Obesity Matters. We took a lot of time to think about that because we wanted people to understand that people living with obesity matter, right? You matter. Isn't that what we all want to know? That we matter. And so the four of us, 4 women with lived experience, set out to create this organization. And I worried. I'm like, what can I offer this community? Because we are a vulnerable community. We've been blamed, we've been shamed, we've been discriminated against. What can I possibly give to this community? And then I remembered, well, I've always got love. That I can give. And I'm going to give the most love that I can to make people feel accepted. And so we opened our doors and we opened our hearts, and we started to understand that the love we were giving could transcend the discrimination, and the love could transcend the blame and the shame. And we started to make inroads. But I'm here to tell you, none of it would be possible without Priti Chawla. She is our founder. And she is the woman that makes stuff happen. So the general rule is when Priti asks you to do something, just say yes. That's the only acceptable answer because she made something out of nothing. She made something when people told us that it wouldn't have been possible, and yet we did it. So just a round of applause for Priti. So before the, oops, I don't know what I did, but before the award ceremony, the day before, we were invited to attend the world, what was it called? The World Obesity Forum. And we got into a room with delegates from all over the world. And we got to hear what different countries are doing in Egypt, in Philippines, in Russia, in all parts of the world. And the mandate at that meeting was to squarely point the finger of blame at ultra-processed foods. And they told us that there's only 2 places left on Earth where obesity rates are not rising: Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. That's it. That's it. And most alarmingly, with children, we're seeing obesity rates quadrupling in certain areas of this world. And so a lot of other countries are further ahead than North America in their policies on what foods they allow, and especially what foods we are allowed to feed our children. So we have much to learn from other countries. And tonight I want to invite Alissa. She is a registered dietitian. She is a certified diabetic educator. She has 15 years experience in this field, specifically with obesity. But besides all of that, she's incredible, she's fun, and she's full of heart. And everyone that meets her falls in love with her, as we can see her expanding in our network. So I want to invite you to come up to the stage.
Kind introduction. I am so honored to be here.
I don't know if I'm on.
Hello, hello. I think a little bit.
Am I on? Oh, good. Thank you. We're on.
Thank you for the tray delivery,
Yes.
the cart delivery.
So when we talk about ultra processed foods, oftentimes the discussion centers around what it does to our bodies, what the metabolic damage it does to the bodies. We talk about maybe obesity and inflammation and all of that. But I want to have a conversation with you where we expand that, where we begin to understand that ultra processed foods not only affects us physically, but mentally. And it affects our relationships, and it affects the energy we have and how we show up, and it affects our relationships. And that we got to look beyond just it as food, but how it interacts with us and then how we interact with the environment. So a lot there. Where do you want to start? Out of all those things, where do you want to start?
Okay, so I think it's really important to start just by defining
Yes, that's a
what
great place.
is an ultra processed food. So we have slides here. I'm not sure if oh, the clicker. Yes. Perfect. So just it's a nice little visual. Here we go. Okay. So one of the best ways to look at ultra processed foods is just look at the package itself. So when I think about something that's packaged, if it has a high amount of sodium, which is defined as more than 5 to 15% daily value, then it's a high sodium product. And same with saturated fat. We're looking at the percentages for those foods. So the fat content of saturated fat is also high, as well as the sugar. And my rule of thumb is 8 grams of sugar is that number that really kind of accounts for natural sugars. Anything that's exceeding that, it's added sugar. So this is one of the best ways to look at the label and think, is this a ultra processed food? And if that ingredients list is super long and has words we cannot pronounce, that's also another indication of what might be in that package. And in January 2026, Health Canada is now adding that little symbol over there, a magnifying glass on every food product. So if it's high in sodium, saturated fat, or sugar, that label is right on the front for us, almost really helping us identify the quality of that food product.
So I would love to see this on drinks. So I have a
Yes.
teenager who's discovered Starbucks.
Yes.
And do you think the packaging will end up even on our beverages?
So if the beverage is sold at like a restaurant, like a fast food setup, the information is just available on their actual menus.
See.
But if it's packaged, then yes, it
Yeah.
will have all this.
Because there's so much value in that. I remember showing my daughter, like, this drink has 30 grams of sugar, and that's almost double your daily intake in one drink.
Which is like 8 packets of sugar.
Yes.
So I feel like a lot of us think about what's on a label. And when you hear 24 grams of sugar, I think 6 packets
Yeah.
of sugar.
Exactly.
So it's really kind of nice to put that in perspective also.
So my beautiful daughter goes to school to tell her friends this newfound knowledge. And you know what they said to her? Sounds like fake news. I mean, I did not make any inroads with the teenagers. Yeah.
And so again, like those visuals are helpful. But perhaps more initiatives socially. I think TikTok trends are more resonating with the younger demographics. Maybe we need some TikTok videos.
Exactly.
With all my sugar cubes and sugar packets.
I'm down for that.
But not every packaged food is ultra processed. Okay. So this here is like almond flour as an example to a bag of chips. So if I look at the ingredients list, almond flour is just almonds. And then chips has that really long, lengthy list of ingredients. So even if it's packaged, doesn't necessarily mean it's ultra processed. And so it's important to kind of decipher between the two.
So for me, that ingredients list of the ketchup chips is a chemically engineered food. And so the mantra that I use is it's factory made, nutrient poor, disease causing food that often robs us of health and many other things. Yeah.
Which I think is like the connection between, as you were saying, that these foods are really connected to how we feel.
Yeah.
And a lot of really strong research. I do a lot of sessions on in corporate or community settings to really kind of find the connection between food and mood and energy and focus. And all of my research continues to point to packaged foods are linked to lower mood outcomes. And the literature is really just saying more vegetables and fruits.
Yeah.
And the outcomes were just as many as you possibly can. So it wasn't even giving you a number, but there's a really strong connection.
Yeah, and I would imagine as well having if I go out for an ultra processed lunch, my productivity is going to tank that afternoon, right? And so when I used to work in the corporate space, we used to have these giant canisters filled with M&Ms and the cook and I'm like, really? Because everybody's on a sugar slump and you're not getting much out of us. So we got to rethink the snacks.
And then add in the holidays. I feel like the workplace, Halloween is inundating the workplace with all their leftover trick or treats, or even just preparing for the winter holidays as well. Our workplaces are definitely being filled with a lot of this stuff as well.
I really challenge my clients to think about gifts of food, because so many of us show love through food. But oftentimes you don't know who you're giving this food to and how it may be impacting their life. So I remember we used to have a neighbor that would always bring over this big thing of Christmas cookies, right? And as a little girl, my heart would sink because my mother was diabetic and she would sometimes go into diabetic shock. And I knew like this was going to be bad news for us, but this neighbor didn't know. This neighbor thought, look, I'm bringing a package of love. So really reconsidering how we show love, and maybe it's actually a bowl of, a thing of fruit and vegetables that actually would be loving.
100%. And so exactly changing a little bit of the culture there
Yeah.
to something a little bit more whole.
Yes.
I feel like I am constantly trying to sell vegetables and fruits. It's my job. I basically have acquired that role. But yes, how to make like bringing the fruit platter, bringing the salads can really help to balance out some of these kind of more traditional recipes.
So I want to do a shout out to my good friend, Dr. Sandy Van, that when my dad passed away, she came by with steaks. Like, it was so great. No, I loved it. They were high quality steaks. No, I loved it. Are you kidding me? I still remember
Iron,
that.
B12.
She brought me beautiful, high quality steaks. I went upstairs, I grilled them. It was fantastic. I loved it. Steak.
I love it. I love it. And that's kind of connected to the opposite. So a really great poster here is from Harvard, and it's really showing you the difference between ultra processed foods versus the anti-inflammatory foods. So what's really happening in our body is these packaged foods are causing a little bit more inflammation. And when we have a bit more inflammation in our body, it's a lot harder to our health to move in the direction that we want it to move in. So if I'm working with clients and I want to help improve cholesterol levels or blood sugar levels, when foods are are more anti-inflammatory, not pro-inflammatory, you can actually reach your health goals faster. So it's not just about necessarily 1,500 calories a day of anything, but how the food responds in our body with regards to inflammation can really set the tone for your health goals.
Yeah, it's not about calories. So big avocado, how many calories do you think?
I would say maybe 250 calories.
Okay. And a Big Mac?
Maybe about 450.
Oh, really?
500.
That much? Oh, okay.
For like with the cheese, the sauce,
Okay.
the burger.
Right.
And so I think it's a double patty.
Yes. Okay.
So a little more. Yeah.
One will affect your insulin levels. It will cause metabolic damage. The other one is a good healthy fat. So not all calories are created equally.
Exactly. So 2 avocados or a burger.
Yeah.
The avocados will have a lot less inflammation, provide you with a lot more nutrients to fuel you and not kind of you feel that dip in energy versus the burger won't really kind of take you that far into your day. Yeah. And so I love, who here has ever seen the Mediterranean diet triangle? Okay. So this is one of the best patterns. It's very well studied. And the literature continues to point to the Mediterranean pattern to really help with metabolic improvements but also mood. So if we're thinking about trying to reduce those ultra processed foods, the Mediterranean pattern is always what I'm thinking about. So in our day, we want that bottom part of our triangle to be the biggest food group in our day-to-day. So that's all the vegetables, the fruits, the whole grains, the nuts and the seeds, so all those plant-based foods. But what I wanted to point out was at the top of the triangle. Can anyone actually see what's at the top of the triangle? Oh, Sandy steaks. Sandy steaks. I'm so sorry. They're full of iron and B12, okay, and protein. But it's also packaged foods, that's right beside the red meat. So packaged foods is really the smallest part of that pattern. And so if this pattern is the best way to kind of guide our menu, and it's linked to, and this is olive oil, nuts and seeds, fish as the primary contenders, that packaged foods the smallest, we're experiencing huge metabolic benefits from blood, 30% cardiovascular risk reduction just by following this, 53% diabetes incidence reduction. So this is my favorite pattern just to kind of highlight. But I always say, don't switch to the Mediterranean eating pattern if that's not your cuisine at home. Just layer some of these concepts in. Are we getting enough nuts and seeds? Are we switching to olive oil in our home? And maybe just doing more less packaged foods.
And this really speaks to the fact that we live in an obesogenic country, North America, where it is very difficult not to develop obesity. So I had the good fortune of spending 3 weeks in Sardinia, an island off of Italy, where they have a blue zone, where they have very, very little incidence of obesity, of cancer. People live into their 90s and hundreds with health. And I went grocery shopping there. And so I bought some bread, and the next day it was as hard as a rock. I wrapped it in cellophane, but it turned hard because there's no preservatives. Then I brought fruit, and I put fruit in the fridge, and it lasts 10 days. No, 48 hours later, it was starting to rot in my fridge. I'm like, what is happening? Oh, this is alive. I'm actually buying food that's alive. And then I've told the story to many of you. My daughter at the 2-week mark said, I need chicken nuggets. I said, okay, you look on the map. And she's like, it's a 3-hour drive round trip. So we did not get nuggets. That was not going to happen for us. And even though we had a rental car, it was easier to walk. By the time I drove and then parked and went down 4 staircases, up 5 staircases, climbed the mountain and found the restaurant, I'm like, we're leaving the car behind. And mealtime was community time, right? And isolation is a real problem. I think loneliness, isolation, lack of connection, and then having foods that fill our brain with serotonin and dopamine and endorphins looks really, really good if I'm not connecting. So I think we can learn a lot from Sardinia. We both have Italian roots.
Yes, we do. And that's a perfect segue into this amazing kind of loop. It's called the dopamine loop. And so no one's necessarily hopping and skipping to carrot sticks, correct? So when you think about these ultra processed foods, they actually signal part of our brain that releases happy hormones. And so it's really connected to that reinforcement. And so it's important to kind of note that if we are having these foods, it does play a role in desiring more and just that kind of short-term release. And I always say, if you're asking me what my number one recommendation would be, it would be, let's try to eat more throughout the day. Because if I haven't had enough all day, for example, if I come home from work and I haven't had enough all day, do you think I'm going to want the cake or the salad? Bring on the cake. And I'm not even taking it out of the box. And so if we're not eating enough throughout the day, that dopamine response is exacerbated, it's heightened. So when we really try to think about ways to combat that dopamine loop, one is less exposure. And then the other is just making sure you're fueling enough throughout the day so you're not as vulnerable as well.
So something I've noticed really interesting with my daughter, again, she's my experiment. So when she goes to her dad's, her dad has the typical treat cupboard that has the chips and the Oreos and da 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 da. So then she comes home to mama and she's like, why don't we have a snack drawer? Why does it suck here so bad? And I explain, you know what? Aren't you lucky? You get that 50% of the time. So here's what's interesting. When she's at her dad's at 9 o'clock, she wants a snack because it's so tantalizing. So then she'll come to me and I want a snack. I go, okay, well, we've got apples and carrots and popcorn. She's like, I'm not hungry. Wasn't that interesting?
Yeah. We all know where treats are in our house.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
We even know probably the inventory amounts as well. So those treats are on our radar if they're there.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes out of sight, out of mind is helpful.
Yeah.
But when they're in the home, we all kind of are definitely paying more attention to them.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so our food environment doesn't make this any easier.
Yeah.
So if I go into Tim Hortons to get a coffee, what do you think is staring at me through a clear glass section? All of a sudden, I'm now thinking about this beautiful new Blue Jays donut with so much icing,
I don't even look.
right? So we go in, and our food environment just doesn't make this easier for us. And I also say the shelves are prime real estate. So the very well-to-do companies are paying a lot of money to put things at eye level. So if we're walking at eye level with our carts, it's those companies, not necessarily the smaller, more whole ingredient companies that have that can afford that placement. It's more of the ultra processed food industry companies that are putting those foods at eye level, and we just naturally grab them. So I always say, if you're going to the grocery store, start squatting. So go up and down, and just be able to kind of pick the items from the top and from the lower half. Not only is it likely less expensive, but it also doesn't cost, it's not as potentially filled with all these extra ingredients.
And it's good to squat.
It's good to, yeah,
Right?
squatting, yeah.
Yeah,
Resistance
10
training,
per aisle.
yes.
Yeah. I totally
So
get
if you
that.
see me at the grocery store, I might be squatting, but it's just for cost savings. Yeah. Yeah. And then I always say, so where do we think we should spend most of our time at the grocery store? Who has ever seen this photo?
Yeah.
The perimeter. Exactly. So if we stay to the perimeter of the grocery store, it's all those whole ingredients that will expire, but maybe not as fast as if you were in those other places. And it's just that kind of center area that I really try to, use that tool of what is an ultra processed food for that package, how much sugar, how much sodium is in this, and kind of use your label reading skills in that kind of center of the grocery store.
Yeah, but they're getting sneakier. I have noticed that the strawberries, and they put chocolate beside it, or the cheese but with the crackers. So they're
You're right.
bringing
The crackers are all on top of the
the
cheeses now.
Yes, because they know you're not
Yes.
going to the middle, so they're bringing it to
Exactly.
you and pairing it. So it's getting sneaky out there.
So come to the grocery store with us. She knows all the marketing tricks, and I'll be squatting. No burpees. No burpees.
Well, we could try.
And I love food. The kitchen is the heart of my home, our home.
Yeah.
And so we have a little activity planned.
Yes.
We are going to make a homemade version of tomato sauce, so marinara sauce.
Yes.
The traditional way.
Yes.
Are you
I
ready?
just found out that you are part Italian, and your
Yes.
mom came from Southern Italy. My parents came from Southern Italy. So we got to squash some tomatoes. We got to.
So we're going to show you the trick to make it as traditional as possible. So on this cart here, we have, so I wanted to point out, this is just like a standard tomato marinara sauce on the slides here. And the sodium content, who can actually tell me the percentage of sodium? 17%. And what did we say we would define? Yes. High-fiving to everyone in the house.
Extra points.
So 5 to 15%, anything exceeding that, we know it's more of a higher sodium product. This here is just canned whole tomatoes.
You got
I chose ones. Yes. Okay, these are product of Italy, but made in Mississauga.
Interesting.
Okay.
Oh no.
It's all good. I'm not confused at all.
Tina knows her tomatoes. Those are the ones I buy,
So
but it's okay.
we are going to pour.
Yeah.
Do you want to pour one
Yeah.
can? I'll pour the other. A little. Oh yeah, we need gloves because we'll teach you how to do this traditionally. Okay. So gloves going on. I come ready. Yeah. And I have some spices as well. Splash my head. Yeah. Here we go. Oh, you're right. You're right. Someone's made homemade tomato sauce.
Not my first rodeo.
There we go. Okay. Amazing. Okay. Now, I'm going to add just some spices, some black pepper. And if you actually taste this sauce here, there's no salt. So, Sandra, do you mind telling us the sodium that you see on this one here?
Someone needs to hold this back for me. 15 grams.
And what's the percentage?
Oh, there's no 1%.
1%. Round of applause for this can of tomato oil. So this here is some Italian spices, all freshly kind of combined, and some garlic powder, because I don't have fresh garlic and onions on the spot. Okay, and a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, my favorite kind of fat. All right, so are you ready to actually make this happen? So you tell them, what's the trick?
So actually, I wish I could find my mother's strainer. I have a strainer that she brought from Calabria. So actually what she would do was push them against the strainer because she didn't like the pulp or the little bits. But we're doing it in a more modern way, and our mothers will forgive us.
Yes,
but
they will never know.
Get in there.
We're just squeezing tomatoes.
Yes.
We're squeezing from a distance.
Yes. This is actually
Splish splash.
no, it's like a.
You did say aprons.
Yeah.
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 That would have been smart.
We can squat and do them at the same time and to really show off.
I love it. I love it. I'll leave here doing burpees. Okay, so
Very good.
that.
It's like a French sauce.
So I don't know if we could have seen the angle of the actual full tomatoes, but I'll take these gloves off and I will lift this bowl up. That's perfect. Amazing. So this is officially homemade marinara sauce.
And then, beautiful. And then if you had your spiral here, because you usually travel with it, you take a zucchini, you put it through the spiraler.
Yeah.
Because as an Italian, it's not the noodles. The noodles are not the big deal. It's the sauce, the cheese, the little meatballs. The noodles, you can make them with anything. It doesn't have to be the carbs. Yeah.
That's how we add that balance plate.
Yeah.
But this here has no sodium.
Yeah.
And as precious as it can be besides the actual whole tomatoes.
Yeah.
So what about you?
Yeah.
So that is kind of the idea to empower us to do it. When I think packaged, how can I maybe make this version homemade? How can I do that? If it's something like granola bars, how can I make energy balls? So just thinking a little bit more outside the box of some staple packaged foods, how can we have that homemade twist?
Yes.
So yeah, thank you all for
Okay.
being the best audience.
Yeah. You guys are the best. I'm going to go back.
Okay, perfect.